Everyone, thank you for all your hellos. Very good mixture. Some people are slightly delayed, and cool. Okay, excellent. Cool. Okay, let's begin. Okay, cool. Next question, I guess, is is everything up on the screen all okay? Everyone got that? The title screen. Awesome, rock and roll, cool. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you today about is digital marketing and how I think it's got something for everyone, basically. And it kind of seeks into why I absolutely love digital marketing. So I am a massive digital marketing nerd. So I absolutely kind of love it. So I'll kind of talk about through some kind of various reasons why I like it and kind of why it can offer things for people. So just as a little kind of introduction to myself. So my name is Luke Devereaux. I'm a lecturer in marketing here at Middlesex, and I teach mostly across the digital modules. So I'm a module leader for digital marketing, social and viral marketing, and an analytics module as well. And I do this generally across multiple kind of years. And my background is in journalism, kind of digital market research, copywriting, selling advertising, and yeah, a host of various kind of bits and pieces. So I've really kind of enjoyed kind of working marketing, and I absolutely kind of love teaching. So it's kind of cool that I get to kind of merge those kind of two things now. So what I'll kind of talk about is why digital marketing is kind of important in general to kind of begin with, what it can offer for kind of, for the creatives out there and kind of creative kind of decision making, but also what it can offer for us in terms of, if you're into kind of data and numbers and things like that, what it can kind of do there. And also kind of with the, at the end, we'll then have some kind of questions if you want, but, if you want to kind of ask questions or chip in about anything as we're going through, feel free to. I'm absolutely fine to kind of answer things. But as I say, like general things, I may kind of answer at the end. But yeah, anything kind of related to things we can kind of look at. Cool. Okay, so firstly, digital marketing has got a very fast kind of growing area in marketing. So spend is definitely increasing in this area. So we see people spending more money basically on digital advertising and various kind of ways of kind of communicating to people online or in digital ways. And I've said spend there actually, but also we could look at even kind of time spent is increasing in this area, especially as kind of, the world is kind of going online. We see a lot of kind of skills needed by the industry as well. So particularly around data. So we see that kind of growing a lot. A lot of kind of current wave of tech developments have kind of changed how services are delivered. So, constantly got to kind of keep on the ball in this respect. And it's also created many more kind of communication possibilities. So there's loads of kind of different ways we can start communicating with our audiences now. And the fun thing about digital, I think, is it kind of opens up kind of new ones continuously. So yeah, I think that's kind of pretty cool. And yeah, digital data has kind of helped us with a bit more of machine learning and AI as well. So, we see a lot of kind of machine learning and AI stuff coming in more, and this has helped a lot by kind of the data that we have that's available to us. However, whilst I'm a massive digital nerd, we've still got to remember that traditional media still has its place. So often there are a lot of people out there that will say, okay, digital media is like much better than traditional media. It's all about digital. It's not. It's more about how we can use these things together. So that's one thing to kind of take away, is that actually it's as important, and it's more about kind of what's right for your audience. Because ultimately in marketing, that's kind of what we're trying to do, is figure out, what are the people that I'm after kind of going for, and I've kind of worked on kind of campaigns and that before, where actually, it's been like print magazines is the best way to kind of reach people for that kind of particular audience. And that's what we've kind of gone for. So it all depends really what's right for your kind of audience. Cool. So briefly, why I kind of like digital marketing so much is, it lets me kind of keep up with what kind of technology is kind of going on. So digital is very fast. It's always kind of changing, and makes it a really kind of fun area to teach in. And this is quite good in kind of class as well. So, when we're kind of talking with students and things, that, everyone's always got like an example that you're like, okay, have you seen this? And I'm like, oh no, I hadn't seen that. And we can kind of keep up to date with kind of things that are going on. So that's really good. It lets me kind of keep exploring some kind of fun adverts and campaigns, so there's always something interesting and innovative kind of happening in digital that, people have found out a new way, they're using TikTok or whatever, or some new kind of augmented reality stuff kind of coming out, and, we get to kind of follow that. Also, I'm also a bit of a research nerd as well, so I love kind of finding things out. And digital lets us kind of track a lot of things kind of more easily. So we can track, people's kind of behavior online and that kind of thing. Right, sorry, I thought a question came up there. Cool. Okay, so what can kind of digital kind of allow us as marketers? And I thought first, let's kind of look at this from a kind of creative kind of perspective. Now, creativity is very important in marketing. So research has shown that kind of, creativity plays a really big kind of part in kind of marketing effectiveness. So the more kind of creative a campaign is, or creative a kind of an ad is, it always kind of increases the effectiveness. So more creative things are often remembered more. So definitely is a key thing to kind of be aware of, basically. So let's kind of look at some kind of channels and kind of think of these kind of things. So here is one kind of view of kind of the digital marketing toolbox. So we've got email on there, we've got websites, we've got online PR, we've got search engine marketing, blogs, social networks, and social media advertising. So here is kind of one kind of way of looking at it, and we can start kind of seeing, okay, how can we use some of these channels to help us kind of reach our audience, in a creative way, like a creative mixture of these channels, or kind of how we can kind of communicate with them. So yeah, here is kind of one kind of way of looking at things. However, I just thought I'd ask, do you think anything is missing from this kind of diagram? Like in terms of like any channels that aren't covered in it? Has anyone got any kind of ideas? So feel free to kind of pop in the chat if you want. I'll give you a couple of seconds to see if you can think of any, but no worries if not, because I realize I'll put you on the spot a bit. But yeah, so here is kind of one, way of looking at it. However, some things that might be kind of missing from this is, digital display ads. So these are kind of the ads that we would see kind of, cropping up mostly on kind of around websites and things. You might often see them where kind of you might go on a site and it's just you're bombarded with kind of ads and things. That's one thing. We've got digital, it says OOH, but that's out of home. So that's like billboards and things like that we've got outside. Cinema is another kind of area that falls under digital. TV on demand, you've got Spotify ads and things like podcasts and advertising on podcasts and that kind of thing. So we've definitely seen a big kind of growth in kind of audio over the past couple of years. So those are kind of some ones to think about. So outdoor ads. So here's some kind of interesting kind of example from quite recently. So here was a kind of a billboard that kind of reacted to the weather. So depending on what the weather was outside, this kind of billboard reacted to it. So, we can start thinking, right, okay, now that we've got kind of billboards that are reacting to things, how can we start kind of playing with this? And it gives us a new way to kind of think of things. And here's quite an interesting example, actually, because it kind of merges a more traditional form of, marketing, like the kind of, normal billboard with a kind of a digital kind of perspective. Outdoors, quite interesting. Recently, kind of Nike had these kind of 3D billboards for kind of Air Max Day, which I thought was very interesting. So again, we see kind of this area kind of expanding kind of a little bit more there. Then going on kind of display ads or kind of Facebook ads. Here was a recent ad from Marmite that was only 6 seconds long, and was very kind of effective. So one of my previous jobs is I used to kind of look at advertising effectiveness. So we would kind of test how effective ads were on kind of audiences. And here we saw that, I didn't work on this particular campaign, but this one was kind of judged to kind of be particularly very, very kind of effective. And I thought, one thing that we've seen with kind of digital is that, we don't have much time to kind of make that impression or get people's attention. And, here we've got a 6 second ad. Now we've got to think, right, how can we creatively use these 6 seconds to kind of grab kind of attention? And I thought this was an interesting ad from Marmite for Pancake Day, basically. And it had some music playing over it, and it just kind of basically just had this squirrel flipping a pancake. But yeah, it was very kind of effective. And I didn't, I don't know if anyone's ever tried Marmite on a pancake. I haven't, but there you go. Maybe it's something to kind of try out. But yeah, so that was, again, kind of an interesting way of looking at kind of, 6 seconds. How can we kind of use these 6 seconds very kind of well? We then have kind of other things kind of coming along. We have the metaverse, which is something that is being mentioned quite a lot lately. So here are kind of just some kind of news articles about the metaverse being used for Fashion Week. So it's been fashion brands I've seen mostly dabbling with the metaverse at the minute. And this is kind of, the more of an online kind of space. And we see Facebook particularly kind of making moves into this area now that they've named themselves Meta. So yeah, we see kind of, right, how can we start using this kind of space to kind of help help kind of do things. Vans have also used this. So they kind of they built this kind of skateboarding world basically in Roblox. And you could kind of go around kind of doing tricks and all kind of various things, buying things and whatnot. So again, it was an interesting way of, right, okay, we've got this metaverse technology coming out. How are brands then using it in ways to kind of help, help with their branding activities? So yeah, we'll probably be seeing more kind of metaverse stuff kind of happening in the coming years, I think. So it's a growing area, that area particularly, but there are still some kind of concerns. There was an interesting documentary about this on Channel 4 last night. I haven't watched it yet though, so I can't say anything about it, but I saw it there. So if you are interested in metaverse stuff, there was something on quite recently about it. So some other channels. Emails is another one that kind of people often forget about. And I've just what's it called? Someone's asked what's it called on Channel 4. Very good thing. It was Dispatches, and I can't remember what the name is, but if you look at Dispatches Channel 4, it should kind of come up. So good. As I was reading out my slide there, I was like, I probably should have put the the name of it on there. So yeah, Dispatches, and I think it was on. Yeah, it was on last night. So emails again is another kind of area. I've just taken an example from kind of Fred Perry here. That it's used quite a lot, and we sometimes don't think of it when we think of digital marketing. We might more naturally kind of start thinking of social media and digital advertising and videos and that thing, but emails do play kind of a big role. People sign up for newsletters. We get emails from brands when we've bought things, and they form quite a good part of the customer journey. And again, we can start using it quite creatively. So in the past, I've kind of worked on, like newsletter campaigns where you've got to start thinking of what, what content you're going to kind of put out, and you can start to see what's kind of working, what content people are interested in based on kind of the data you get back. And yeah, I'm a big fan of emails, and it's something that is often used quite a lot, and I used to work in terms of writing these, I don't know if you've had these emails that you get when, you've put something in your basket and then you've left it, and you get an email saying, oh, you've left this in your shopping basket or whatever. Yeah, I used to kind of write those emails as well. And it's amazing, like it doesn't take that long to write it, but you get, quite a few sales back from it. Not everyone will, but some people will. So, you know, emails have kind of got a good thing to do on, and we can start getting kind of, you know, creative use of this email, which they look more like magazines sometimes, newsletters do. So yeah, emails, let's not kind of forget what emails are kind of doing. Here's an example from recently, I say recently, when Deadpool 2 came out, I think, a few years ago, is that they used Tinder as a kind of a marketing thing. And I think a few brands kind of started dabbling with this stuff, which I thought was interesting at the time, that, you know, these kind of channels kind of come out, you know, such as Tinder, and brands start kind of using them to kind of promote things. I've seen this done for kind of LinkedIn as well. Yeah, a couple of brands used Tinder to kind of do some marketing with, which is, you know, it's not for every brand. It's not the thing to do like all the time. But for particular brands, it might kind of make sense. You know, Deadpool also kind of helped, you know, made kind of emojis and stuff kind of for them. And yeah, so they use these kind of technologies in kind of different ways. You know, and the Deadpool 2 stuff kind of also kind of helped generate some online digital PR. So we see, you know, people start kind of, you know, spreading word online about stuff. And, you know, we see this a lot, you know, news articles kind of coming up on kind of various things is used quite a lot. So digital PR is definitely kind of one kind of way of looking at things. You know, another kind of area that we have kind of coming up is influencers. So, you know, I'm sure we're all kind of quite familiar with kind of how influencers kind of work and stuff now. But this is another area, and we start thinking, right, okay, do we use particular influencers? Do we kind of help make one? What influencers do we advertise with? You know, are they better spending our money with influencers than we are kind of on digital standard digital ads? You know, so we've seen a lot of kind of ad spend going over towards influencers. And one particular area in this that I found quite interesting is the use of like virtual influencers that are like CGI. So we've seen a few brands kind of dabbling with this in the past few years. So I don't know where this trend will kind of go, but we've been seeing a bit more of it recently. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how people feel about, would you trust a kind of CGI influencer at the minute? I don't know. I'm debated on that. I think I would probably more likely trust a human influencer, but we'll see how that goes with time. But yeah, so this is another kind of area that's kind of being used quite a lot. You know, in the influencer side of things as well, we've got, you know, more people, you know, becoming influencers, but also kind of, you know, putting advertising spend into it as well. But trust is a big issue with influencers at the minute. And that's been interesting to kind of see, you know, when we've spoken about this over the years with students, you know, trust is kind of going up and down. You know, some people are now not trusting influencers as much as they were. So this kind of space is going to be interesting to keep an eye on in the next few years, I think. You know, of course, the other kind of stuff that we have for, you know, is just the normal kind of posting on, you know, social media like Instagram, TikTok, and that kind of thing. You know, and this in itself can kind of bring in, you know, new creativity and new ways of doing things. You know, I mean, I think TikTok is a kind of really perfect example of this. Like, you know, we look at TikTok and the way that kind of those things are filmed is very different than, you know, other social platforms a few years ago were. You know, and then we see kind of Instagram Reels kind of trying to jump in on the TikTok thing. So it starts bringing out kind of new ways of using these platforms for brands. I mean, I don't know if anyone remembers Vine, but Vine, I feel, was kind of a bit ahead of its time in terms of those short videos. So yeah, so again, you know, we see these kind of things being used a little bit kind of more. And one thing I thought that I'd mention here about is the distinction between kind of paid social media and organic social media. So, you know, there was this big kind of push for how popular organic social media is, which is basically, you know, say if you were posting and it naturally kind of goes viral and starts spreading and doing those kind of things. That now it's, you know, people are edging more towards you've got to kind of pay to kind of get the reach that you want on social, really. You know, there are kind of cases of the organic stuff kind of working very well, but generally, like once you start kind of paying on there, that's a little bit, it's kind of needed to kind of lay the foundation for that. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind, and keep in mind the distinction between kind of, you know, paid advertising on these platforms versus kind of the organic stuff. So, you know, if you were thinking about it, it's the difference between like you posting on there and you having kind of like a sponsored post type thing. So yeah, but we, you know, we've seen kind of a lot of kind of cool creative stuff come out of brands, how they're using their, you know, their Twitter accounts or you know, Instagram accounts or Instagram stories in new and kind of different ways. And especially with TikTok, we've seen kind of, again, the audio thing kind of links in there, that we've seen kind of people using, you know, different kind of audios kind of gone viral, and we see these kind of things. Another kind of thing then to think about, another channel to go through is search. So this is the other kind of, it's the slightly more technical side of digital marketing, I would say, but it does kind of have its links to creativity. So SEO is search engine optimization. And it might not on the face of things seem totally creative, but there is some scope, whilst also being a bit technical. So, you know, if you're more technically minded, I think there's this side of digital that helps you here. And SEO is essentially, you know, how can we rank higher on Google? So, you know, if we've got our kind of brand and we want to kind of rank higher, or we've kind of started our own company and we want to start kind of ranking higher on Google, you know, SEO is kind of the bit that kind of helps us do this. You know, it's a very important thing to kind of do, because yeah, I mean, I guess a question to people, has anyone ever really kind of clicked onto page 2 of the Google search results? You know, I think it doesn't really, I very rarely, I think, go to kind of page 2, let alone kind of page 8, 10 or whatever of the search results. So, you know, getting into kind of the, you know, that first page is kind of vital. So, you know, sorting out our kind of SEO is something that we can start thinking about. You know, and we can do this through kind of a number of ways, really. So we can do things for this that are based on our site. So this is called on-page SEO. So this is where we can play with kind of the code on the site to kind of help us, or the content of the site. So we could start kind of putting in keywords and things, so that kind of this helps us kind of go a bit higher in Google. And there's things like off-page SEO as well. And this is basically the things that will help you, yeah, things that aren't on your site that help you rank higher. So this can be like using social media, or kind of doing kind of online PR, you know, generating backlinks that people link back to your site. So yeah, I won't go into kind of too much detail now, but, you know, if anyone does have any questions about any of these topics, by the way, as we're kind of going through them, then feel free to kind of ask or ask at the end. I'm happy. Yeah, so SEO is another kind of important area. Again, sometimes I think it's forgotten about in terms of like compared to social media and other things, but it's very important. And when we start thinking of content marketing, you know, especially in terms of blogs and things, that actually, you know, SEO does kind of play a big part. Another kind of area that's kind of come along that's quite interesting for creativity is things like augmented reality and virtual reality. So if we see these kind of things come in, we can kind of create more immersive experiences, you know, and this is particularly kind of with AR and kind of VR. So virtual reality probably isn't quite there yet in terms of, you know, being widely adopted. So this will probably come with time. But augmented reality is probably you know, something that we're more kind of familiar with. I don't know if anyone remembers, like a while ago, I mean, this is Snapchat here, does a lot of kind of augmented reality. And augmented reality is basically where you have things like digital appearing kind of in the world around you, basically. It's like, I don't know if you remember Pokemon Go. So Pokemon Go is kind of a really classic example of augmented reality, where you can like look through your phone, you know, and it seems like this stuff is kind of appearing there. So Snapchat kind of do a lot of this stuff. Here was some very basic augmented reality I made for kind of one of my seminar classes, just with our module code, a robot and a dinosaur in there. So yeah, I think it's interesting stuff. So it'd be interesting to see how kind of brands use this kind of stuff more as time goes by. But yeah, I always think augmented reality is quite a fun one to kind of look at and kind of play around with. But yeah, Snapchat and, you know, filters and things is probably where we see a lot of that. You know, remember, whatever kind of channels we use or approaches we take, you know, we must be serving some form of purpose for the brand. And this is probably where we have our, you know, it's fine being kind of really creative and all that kind of stuff, but we've got to kind of link this back to what does this mean for the brand, you know. And in marketing, we're often kind of, you know, it's interesting the role that this kind of plays is that we might be asking a creative agency to make stuff for us, so that we can then kind of, you know, carry out our plan, and that we want to creatively mix kind of different channels. Sometimes if you're in a smaller kind of startup, you might be doing more of the creative stuff yourself. So it depends. So you know, there's different roles that kind of plays throughout the process, depending on kind of where you kind of work. You know, I've worked in kind of agencies where kind of, you know, they'll ask the creative teams to do it. But when you're kind of in a small startup, sometimes where I've kind of worked before, and you know, you've got to kind of do everything really, and kind of do the creative yourself. So yeah, so we've got to kind of make sure that it's our ideas and that are linking back to kind of, you know, helping the company achieve their kind of aims and things. You know, and this links us a little bit to the data side of things. So on to kind of the numbers of data and kind of market research and that kind of stuff. I mean, were there any questions so far, by the way, on any of the stuff we just covered before we kind of move on to the next kind of section? Was there any questions at all, or is everyone kind of following okay and things like that? No, cool. Okay, I'll crack on. Okay, so that's kind of some of the channels that are available to us marketing and how we can kind of start maybe using them kind of creatively. The other kind of side of things is kind of the role of numbers and data and things, as I've kind of suggested it kind of here. So this area is often considered a little daunting. I think often people are kind of a little bit kind of wary of it. But it's growing in kind of marketing. You know, we see the role of kind of big data kind of playing quite a big part. And, you know, it's you know, there are lots of jobs kind of coming up in this kind of area, like data science and data analysis and that kind of stuff. So, you know, understanding this stuff is a good thing. And we see that as it's kind of merging more with marketing as the years go by, that we need to kind of know a little bit about this, you know. Obviously, you can kind of focus on different areas. If you want to kind of focus on being a creative, then you can really kind of look at that. If you want to focus on being an analyst, you can look at that. And that's, you know, one of the reasons I love marketing in general is that there's kind of this home for everyone really, you know, and kind of whatever kind of role that you kind of play, you know, you can find it out. You know, for example, I mean, I started off as a writer, and I was more on that kind of creative side. And then I kind of moved more over to kind of the, you know, the ad effectiveness and market research, because I was really interested in like, okay, I'm writing things, you know, how can I, you know, figure out the most effective way of writing, you know, like when I do something, is this going to help the brand? And I became kind of quite obsessed with trying to figure out, you know, what kind of things worked and what things didn't. And we see this kind of evidence-based approach to marketing kind of playing more of a role over the last few years. So a little kind of run through kind of some of the kind of things that we can kind of do in digital. One kind of classic thing that we can kind of do is something called A/B tests. And this is to see what kind of variants of ads do better, or what parts of sites don't do as good as others. So for example, if we had on a kind of a site like a download button, we could run a test that tested if the download button is in green versus the download button in red, which one of these would kind of be more effective at getting more downloads. And I don't know about you asking here. The green one, yeah, exactly. So we would be like, right, I mean, definitely I feel a lot more comfortable clicking on the green one than I would the red one. So I'm glad someone agrees there in the chat. So yeah, we would think, right, okay, the green one, and that would be the result of an A/B test. And we can do this with loads of different things. So we could say, even we could test that the text on that site, on that button, sorry, it could be, you know, free download, you know, for whatever, and then the other one couldn't be, or, you know, we can start playing around with the text. and with websites, we can do this for almost anything. We can do this with kind of different images, different fonts, various kind of different things to see what kind of works. And this is why it's quite interesting, this marrying of kind of like data with creativity, because you can start seeing kind of what's being effective for what you need it to. So that's one kind of cool thing that we can start doing. And companies also do this with their ads as well. They'll do like different variants of things to see what kind of works. Another thing we can do is, data isn't just numbers. We have lots of text data out there. So for example, we look at kind of Twitter and kind of tweets, there's loads and loads of text there being generated. We can kind of collect that and start thinking about what this means for us as a brand. So one kind of basic thing that we can do is sentiment analysis, which is basically, are all the mentions of our brand online kind of positive or negative or neutral usually? But this, we can start getting a feel for how people feel about our brands or at a particular time. And this can be quite good to do, because we might see that, a particular incident, people might start turning against us and we're like, oh God, we should probably start doing something to kind of figure that out. So, this is again, something that's quite cool through digital. And we can do this using kind of tools, or we can kind of, build, we can build things in, programming languages like Python and that can help us kind of do this. So I've done this before in terms of, analyzing tweets, kind of, writing stuff in Python that helps us kind of bring this in. Another thing we can kind of do is, linking this to kind of machine learning and stuff, is we could look at all these tweets and, figure out any kind of automatic topics that are in there. We might figure out like, we can set it to kind of run on some text and get it starts telling us, okay, these are particular topics that pop up in the text. For example, here, I mean, topic 1 might be they loved our customer service, or topic 2 might be, they preferred a red version, and topic 3 might be people were nostalgic about things. So we can start seeing all these kind of things, which is pretty cool. Now kind of develop over time, I think, as we see kind of more machine learning and AI stuff kind of start seeping into kind of how we do research on brands. So yeah, basically with digital, we're often leaving traces of our kind of digital behavior behind, which is often how people can kind of track us. I'm sure everyone's kind of been clicking on kind of, whenever you go on a site, like asking you about the cookies and things like that. So that's kind of another thing, constantly kind of being tracked, within reason, because obviously the ethics and things is going on. But we can also use tools such as Google Analytics to kind of track what we're doing on websites. And this is kind of fascinating stuff, because we can start seeing, how long people have spent on the site, kind of what pages they viewed, what kind of journey they went on the site. We can then look at kind of things like scrolling behavior. So, where people have scrolled down through like a product page. So, we can set up kind of, there are things like called tags, where we can kind of track kind of where people are on a site. So I've done it before where I wanted to see if people were scrolling to the bottom of a page, so we can get a little tag to fire and tells me when people have done that. We can see where people are kind of, viewing from, so we can start seeing, okay, maybe most of our audience is in America, or, they're in Spain or France or wherever, and we can start tailoring our messages to that. And linked to this with kind of the analytics there, like when we look at social analytics, we have all of that stuff there as well. Like, on Instagram Insights, TikTok analytics, we can start seeing, okay, most of my audience are, using engagement at like a particular week and day. So let's kind of work our way around that and kind of plan our material there. Or, particular content might be more popular. So let's give more of that content to help kind of engage them with things. So yeah, there's kind of good free tools from Google that help you kind of do some good kind of analytics stuff. And Google Analytics is a very kind of powerful one to kind of be looking at. I mean, one thing we can look at quite easily is trends in terms of what people are searching for online. And we could do this using Google Trends. So I don't know if you've played around with this before, but I would definitely encourage just having a play around with it, like, you know, at some point. If you just Google Trends, it should come up and it lets you kind of compare kind of different things, basically, that you want to kind of look at and, yeah, basically compare. So in preparation for this, I thought I would do a slight kind of comparison. Yeah, I mean, feel free to kind of answer in kind of the chat, like, which of these shows do you think had the highest kind of search volume in the UK on Google? So I just looked at some kind of recent ones like Inventing Anna, Bridgerton, Euphoria, and Peaky Blinders. I mean, does anyone have any kind of guesses as to which one had kind of the highest search volume? Okay, so someone's gone for Bridgerton. Okay, interesting. Bridgerton. Okay, so Bridgerton is a kind of a popular one here. Bridgerton. Who else? Peaky Blinders. Someone's gone for. So okay, this is interesting. So we've got a kind of a competition between Bridgerton and Peaky Blinders. Okay, cool. So looking at this on Google Trends, the winner was Peaky Blinders. But Bridgerton came second. So I'm very impressed, actually, that everyone kind of guessed that. So as we can kind of see, Peaky Blinders is in the yellow here. So that kind of had the highest one at the original, when it first kind of came out. And then we see these kind of spikes as kind of the different, episodes came out. But Bridgerton is actually kind of, pretty close, really, other than the first week of Peaky Blinders. Bridgerton has kind of been a close one there. So I thought that was kind of quite interesting. Whilst I am a Peaky Blinders fan, I actually thought Bridgerton was going to be higher than Peaky Blinders. I was quite surprised by that, actually. So that was that. The other thing we then kind of think of is looking at this. I did this for the UK. And then when we look at it in terms of, worldwide, we could start looking at this, right? Okay, how does this compare to kind of worldwide? And what we have here is Euphoria was the kind of the winner here. And then Bridgerton was still second place, though. So Bridgerton was still kind of good overall. But in this instance, it was Euphoria that was higher, and Peaky Blinders kind of went down at the kind of the worldwide kind of level there. Which, I guess if we were kind of interpreting this, we could think, okay, maybe Peaky Blinders, because it was, kind of a very kind of Britishy kind of show, that maybe that's why it was higher in the UK searching. So yeah. So that was my, I'm glad everyone kind of guessed Bridgerton and Peaky Blinders. So here we go. This is Google Trends, basically. It's quite useful for kind of comparing things. So, feel free to kind of compare, like, football teams, topics, and this is kind of useful because it gives us an insight into kind of a bit of, user behavior. I mean, what's interesting here, even looking at these, we can see the ones that kind of have these, kind of being released kind of each week. We see these peaks, whereas these kind of ones that kind of put online in one go kind of have that peak and then kind of drop off. So we can start seeing how people kind of are searching and viewing and things that way. We could also use this for, coming up with like topic ideas. So for example, we could look at when are people searching for, joining the gym or kind of exercise. We start seeing kind of peaks, and we can start thinking, okay, we could maybe write stuff based around that. So I've used that before in the past for kind of writing kind of topics, articles and ads and things, because we will maybe see kind of exercise, people searching for that more around January after kind of New Year and that, and they're like, right, let's get back into exercise. And we start kind of looking at data to see what we can kind of do here. But also we can use it to compare brands and shows and things like this, and give us a little idea as to kind of what we can kind of do. Yeah, so basically, we can start kind of using digital to get kind of some interesting facts about what people are doing, what they're searching, what's being popular, to a degree, kind of how well some of our stuff is kind of doing, and these insights can then start helping us improve what we do as marketers in terms of, discovering some kind of new kind of behavior, or, figuring out topics to kind of write about on our site. So, if we see kind of trends kind of going up, we might be, okay, let's write some blog topics on that, or let's generate some social content about that area because it's growing and trending. And this is how kind of this data stuff can kind of start linking back to the creative stuff we covered earlier. So yeah, so there's basically, thank you for listening. I hope that was kind of a quick kind of run through of kind of some kind of creative digital stuff, but also then kind of the data side of it, and then hopefully how these things kind of mix together and kind of link back to link back to each other. So yeah, so thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for your kind of guesses and your questions. Yeah, I mean, does anyone have any questions about anything? I'm happy to kind of answer pretty much anything. And yeah, so thank you for coming. That's kind of much appreciated. I hope it was useful. But yeah, any questions at all? Anything I can kind of help with, or any advice or anything? So I just thought I'd take a sip of water. How many years is digital marketing? Well, in kind of the undergrad kind of setup, it's not a kind of course in itself. It's like there's modules kind of dotted throughout the year, throughout the years. So on kind of the more say like BA marketing, there's like the digital marketing modules you can start taking in the second year, and then there's some in the third year as well. So I teach across, I teach like the main digital marketing in the second year, as well as kind of a couple digital marketing modules in the third year. So that's like available depending on what kind of pathway that you go down. So it's more that it hasn't got its own course, own kind of, degree in itself. It's more that its digital is kind of placed throughout the throughout kind of the general kind of marketing modules. I hope that helped answer your question, but if not, then just let me know. For careers in digital, okay, so someone's asked, for careers in digital marketing and data analysis, different, how would you get into data analysis digitally? There's kind of different kind of routes really. So, because you could have data analysis that is different from digital marketing really. So, I mean, if we look at kind of, let's say, sport, for example, there's football teams have data analysts to kind of look at all kind of the data generated by footballers and things. So that's kind of another area. So there's, if you're looking at kind of general data analysis, there's loads of kind of different roles coming out there. For digital marketing, you have lots of kind of research agencies. So what you would have is, there's lots of research agencies you can kind of work for. So I used to work for research agencies where we would look at ad effectiveness, and that was kind of really interesting. You also have kind of brands themselves might kind of have data science departments, which we see kind of growing a little bit more. So yeah, those are kind of two areas that you could start looking into. And in terms of getting into kind of data analysis, I think kind of, start kind of building up the skills that you kind of want to kind of look at. So for example, if you want to focus on text analysis, you could look at that, or, just numbers, basically there's qualitative data and quantitative data, and there are two ways of doing research, but, familiarizing yourself with those. In terms of analysis skills, we see, sometimes, these kind of job ads ask for kind of like coding experience. So maybe start dabbling a little bit with that and seeing what's what. But yeah, so, and just kind of looking kind of what the job ads are kind of asking for really. So it depends. I hope that kind of helped answer your question in a broad way. Okay, so next question, does Middlesex University provide internship for MSc Digital Marketing? I think there was, I remember, so I teach one module in kind of the digital kind of marketing masters, but I haven't been involved in kind of the internship stuff, but I know they did at some point, but it might be worth kind of emailing them about that, or if, yeah, I don't know if the marketing person in the call at the minute can kind of help in that respect. But if you want us to kind of look into that, we can try and look into that. But the only reason I don't know is because I'm not as involved with that side of things than the other, but there was at one point. What is the response, if any, of the industry to mass internet outage? I think the response to that would be probably panic and start looking kind of traditional kind of things. So yeah, and see for what reason, why did it go out? So yeah, no, good question though, because if we're all reliant on digital, then yeah, there can be kind of problems kind of happening. So no, good question. What Uni degree would be best for data analyzing? Oh, that's interesting. I mean, heading fully on kind of down that route, depending on kind of what level that you are at, you know, you have kind of, yeah, I mean, at master's level, you could be looking kind of, you know, data science kind of degrees and things like that is one area to kind of look at for analyzing kind of data. Yeah, it depends, because you've got kind of like the computer science side of things, you've got kind of more economic side of things. So I guess, you know, if you were looking kind of general, try and think of like a general kind of degree that would help with that kind of data analysis. You know, we see more of kind of, you know, we see more things coming up about kind of, you know, data science or machine learning and AI, and try and narrow it down that way. So maybe, you know, thinking about kind of what area in particular that you are looking for in terms of yeah, the analysis that you want to kind of go into, and then seeing kind of, okay, what are they looking for in kind of the job adverts that they're asking for there. So that might kind of help, because to try and think ahead of it, if that makes sense. So if you're going to apply for those jobs, see what they're kind of asking for and see what they kind of go for. Because often with jobs, they might say, you know, we need a kind of degree ticking in kind of these areas, and they might list like 5 broad areas, and you can kind of go for that. Yeah, I hope that helped answer the question. But if not, then just let me know. Cool. Okay, I think I answered everyone's questions. If anyone has any other kind of questions, then just let me know. Or if you want me to kind of expand on any of the other ones, then I'm happy to. But yeah, okay, cool. There don't seem to be any more kind of questions kind of coming up, but yeah, so if there aren't any more questions, then thank you, everyone. Thanks for kind of listening. Thanks for kind of your awesome questions. They were all really good. I kind of enjoyed answering them as best as I could. And yeah, I hope you have a fun rest of the day and enjoy kind of, you know, making your decisions on things and all that in general. So yeah, thank you, everyone, and take care and have a fun rest of the day. Cool. Take care.